Sorry.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by... Who are we joined by? Neil, Adam, Arthur, Click OK, One Deck, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So, welcome one and all.
Let's get it on.
Hello.
Hello, got a bit of One Deck in the intro. Unfortunately, I unmuted the wrong line. So if you're hearing a bit of someone talking through the introduction music, that's One Deck by accident. That's my fault. How's it all going?
Outstanding.
Great. Excellent.
It's good morning.
Writing a little bit more book in the Tuesday session that I do with my daughter, going out to do some artwork. So I have to travel some distance on a Tuesday. And when I'm there, there's no point driving back and then coming back again. So I just sit there for an hour and a half while my eldest daughter has her art lesson. And for the last few weeks, I've been writing some anecdotes. So previously, in the book I'm writing, there was an exclusion of individuals being mentioned. Whereas since my treacherous editing team was sacked, that's to say I fired them, dismissed them from the duties that they were charged with. That's editing my book. When they decided that they were going to be calling themselves authors because they were helping me edit. Yeah, that's when I sacked them. That's to say fired them from the unpaid position they held. The editing work is now being done by my wife as opposed to the two thieving bastards I fired. But I've now decided that I will add in anecdotal evidence and information about individuals and name drop. So your Bobs, your Daves, both of them, all five of them. Your Gerrans. Even today I was writing a little bit about Stephen Chess. Don't know if you guys remember Stephen Chess. Hands up who remembers Stephen Chess.
He's the guy that you told me about this morning.
Yeah, you know, because I was sharing bits of my book with you while I was writing them. So Stephen Chess, I didn't know it was Stephen Chess at the time, but I was listening to a bit of Alex Jones, and a guy comes on the phone in to Alex personally and starts talking to him about how wonderful Alex Jones's, I don't know, goat weed or whatever it is that he's flogging at the time, his dick pills are, and how fantastic they are. So he's like, I buy all your products, they're wonderful, I use them daily. I use this product, and he name drops it, and I use that product, and he name drops it. So obviously he's building a bit of rapport with Alex Jones himself about all of the products that, although I didn't know it at the time, Stephen Chess bought and used. I don't disbelieve that was the case. But then towards the end of that preamble, Stephen Chess drops into the discussion with Alex Jones live on air that Earth's flat, and very quickly gets cut off. And the audience is informed by Alex Jones. Prank caller, prank caller. Very amusing that it was. Now, it was only, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months later that I was in Stephen Chess's company, and that came up, and he was like, that was me. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, that was me. I called in. I was a big fan of InfoWars, and I did genuinely buy all the products. So calling in and getting in and you know, being able to talk on a live show about how I'd used all the products was dead easy because I was familiar with them all. But then I dropped in the fact that Earth was flat and immediately got cut off. Now, today I was writing about exactly that and tying it into how 10 years later, Eddie Bravo, who, quote, I fucking love Nathan Oakley, end quote, Eddie Bravo, after describing how I destroy Globers on a regular daily basis that you could join in an elongated shout out that he gave were fighting with Dave Weiss over a toy globe. Now, as cringe as that was, it was a complete 180-degree turnaround from the info wars of old where prank caller, no, Earth's not flat, to cringe, him and David Weiss and Eddie Bravo all fighting over a globe. Can anybody remember that? It was quite recent. It was in the last couple of years.
Yeah, they smashed the globe. They were all beating it up. And they were saying, come on, Alex, come.
Right, a radical
I never
turnaround.
saw the full clip.
Say again?
I never saw the full clip, but that's the clip that brought me over years ago.
Which one? Be more specific.
The one, Nathan Oakley, he destroys people.
Oh, from Eddie Bravo. I thought you... Sorry, I was getting confused
Yeah.
when you said the clip. I thought you were talking about Eddie Bravo, David Weiss, and Alex Jones fighting over a toy globe.
No, is that a different time?
That was more recent. But yeah, the Eddie Bravo shout-out I got was about 3 years ago.
Probably a little bit longer by now, to be honest.
Maybe it's longer. I can't
So
remember.
it feels like more like it was 6 years ago that Eddie Bravo did it.
Maybe. I mean, between then and
When
now...
Dave Weiss and
Go on.
sorry, no, I was gonna say that when Dave Weiss and Alex Jones smashed the globe, that's going on like 4 years ago.
Really? Is it that long ago?
Yes, sir.
Wow,
Yeah.
doesn't time fly when
4
you're
or
having
5.
fun?
It's been a minute.
Yeah, time really does fly by.
But I know Dave Weiss made an appearance twice in the studio. Maybe not in the studio with Alex Jones, maybe on just a Skype call kind of thing. But a lot of times I get the two shows conflated as well. But there are 2 separate appearances with Weiss. And one of them, when they were smashing the globe, that's fairly old now.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, while I'm
I
writing
would
about
call
this stuff,
that-
I'm writing about how kind of gutted I am that I never managed to really reach David Weiss in the way I hoped. So back in the day, I tried to communicate science and the scientific method to David Weiss, and it was shut down on account of the fact that a lot of his compadres at the time, that would be Bob and Jaron and Whitsitt, were utilising that particular magic trick to punt the idea of free energy and the luminiferous ether with Michelson-Morley's, quote, experiment, which it's not. So because of their use of the magic trick of science, David Weiss wasn't exactly receptive when I was trying to point out how that magic trick is utilised to convince people of non-empirical, just so stories as being empirical, proven facts with the words of science. Well, about halfway through the explanation, he just shut me down and didn't want to talk about it. Later to go on to tell an audience we don't watch Nathan Oakley after spending many minutes discussing ballers that they do watch quite happily, which was heartbreaking. I've got to be honest. You know, I still reel over that fact to this day. Now, as fickle as I may be, you know, it's not like I'll forget. But Dave does put the hours in, right? Dave puts in the effort. He goes out there, admittedly with a rather tired old script these days. And that's not to say, I'm not saying he's got a physical script in his hand. What I mean is his rhetoric is fairly dusty these days compared to, well, Earth's just measured flat. And as I say, I was writing about this today with the example of, what's the Jesse guy's surname? Because I couldn't remember it while I was writing it. Is it Peterson?
Jesse Lee
Yes.
Peterson.
Jesse Lee Peterson. I could just not remember his name. So the story goes that Dave Weiss got tipped off that upon being asked if he knew Earth was flat, he'd have hills and valleys pointed out to him. So for that reason, when asked, do you know for sure and without a doubt that Earth is flat, Dave refused to answer or gave a Weasley non-answer 15 times. And on the 15th occasion, his response, that's David Weiss's response, was, well, it could be a big ball. Now
Could be flat, could be a bigger ball.
Exactly. So as a result, he gets called Big Ball Dave. But again, heartbreaking. It's like, what would we say today in the same position? We'd say, well, of course it's flat. That's how it's measured.
Have you ever
No,
thought
no.
about revisiting Dave Weiss and maybe trying to open up his understanding a little more?
He's probably a bit less fickle than me. And in the same way as often when you get wronged by somebody, you will lash out in retaliation. The retaliation is what gets remembered by the primary individual. So in this case, there's a good chance that if I did try and reach out to Dave, he'd be like, well, you've slagged me off for 2 years or 5 years or however long it is, I can't recall. And I'd be like, yeah, I have. Anyway, science is being used to hijack just so stories, because it is. But I don't know, maybe he'd be more receptive. The last time I tried to get in touch with him, he just completely ignored my Skype messages, which, to be honest, like I say, as I have been fairly brutal towards Dave Weiss, I don't blame him. You know, my retaliation is more severe than his initial wrongdoing, suggesting that he doesn't watch me when he's publishing my videos on his app. Again, that was something else.
Funny, though,
Go on.
I'm just saying on that point, like, don't watch Nathan, we don't watch Nathan, but he wasn't too slow in, you know, when he was offering his Bitcoin out to send people to you to destroy them and point out that there is no proof of a globe. He would send them right to you.
Yeah, but he was sat alongside people who were at that time calling me a scammer, you know, tarnishing my good name because they were projecting their own use of the scientific vernacular to punt free energy and ether, and that's what was being done. So I stood in contravention, is that the right word, of what they were doing over there. That's Jaron and Whitsit and Bob. And Dave was a part of that crowd. So therefore, while they were all slagging me off, Dave just joined in and was like, no, we don't watch. Like, all right, so you're more than happy to spend 10 minutes talking about McToon, but as soon as my name comes up in conversation, it gets shut down immediately.
I think by that
I
time he
remember
was
hearing
well,
that. Yeah, Rex.
by that time he was well on his way to becoming an approved critic in the media.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the approved critics aren't necessarily government-approved shills in the vein that people might take what you've just said to mean. What you mean by that is, if you feast at the table of the Feast of Nonsense, then your rhetoric is approved. That is to say, if you argue for Earth not being a ball, then that is very much an approved rhetoric to have as a flat earther. You know, 2 thumbs up. Great. You're talking about Earth's not a ball. Wonderful. Great. And you can also throw in a load of conspiratard nonsense alongside it to make you seem yourself and your associates seem like kooky weirdos. Great. What's that? 9/11 was an inside job? Marvellous. Yeah, keep it up.
This isn't to say that 9/11 wasn't an inside job.
Oh my God.
No.
When you've got demonstrable facts that are used daily when measuring Earth as a horizontal plane, talking about whether or not JFK was assassinated by the government or the man on the grassy knoll is entirely irrelevant. Now, the JFK, I'm going to take it away from 9/11. The JFK assassination, like 9/11, was thwarted by multiple narratives being put out there intentionally. So long as you've got 10 different versions of events, one of them might be the true events. But you'll never really know, will you? Because there's so much garbage thrown onto that shit heap that you can never get to the actual truth. Even if you've got the actual truth, no one's going to believe you because there's 10 other various kooky conspiracy theories, as the CIA labelled them, to go alongside it, that you could also, quote unquote, believe in if you choose to, making the true, if it is, narrative that you possess also just something that people can believe in. And that's intentionally put into our realm so that flat Earth, a demonstrable fact based on measurements, can be deemed a conspiracy theory. Just what these kooky weirdos think when they say that Earth curves not the geometric horizon that boats go over. Oh, what do they know? Boats go over a geometric horizon.
I've just had a wonderful thought. It's almost as if all conspiracies lead to flat Earth. I don't know. I've never thought about that before.
You should get that copywritten.
That's from Neil.
Oh, shoot. I did something good?
What we're talking about for the audience's benefit, in case you're not following along, in the last couple of years, the notion that all roads lead to a flat Earth is the notion that if you investigate any measurements, let's say you look into how Earth is a sphere, how the radial value of said sphere moves in an orbital motion around the sun, derived with distances from Kepler and Huygens, where does that road lead back to? Well, it leads back to flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements and surface level measurements and distance measurements, linear, flat and horizontal in all respects. In other words, all roads lead to a flat Earth. The measurements of Earth are flat.
Question.
Go ahead.
All right. If all roads that are legitimate lead to flat Earth, and all roads that are kind of kooky and out there, either a little bit or a lot of it, get back to flat Earth, then aren't they on to something by branching out to the Feast of Nonsense and to the other little facets of truthing,
No.
Even if it is just to get us back here.
No. So I would say it's the other way around. It's not that you're being led from flat Earth to conspiracy. It's the other way around. So you go from conspiracy to flat Earth, so that the people who are conspiratorial in their mindset, and I am using the CIA terminology intentionally when I say conspiracy theorist, I realise that's a badge associated by government, but I'm using it intentionally to describe how a type of mindset is led to the subject of flat Earth, so that they can continually perpetuate flat Earth as a conspiracy theory, rather than it being the case that engineers and architects are led to flat Earth, so that they can talk about engineering and architecture in the vein of how Earth gets measured flat, because they'd be taken a lot more seriously than people who suggest that Taylor Swift's a clone and that the books have been changed because of a Mandela effect, or that 9/11 was an inside job and JFK was an inside job. Those are the type of people that you need to be talking about flat Earth. So the flat Earth, which is just a measurement of Earth, can be turned into a conspiracy. So all conspiracy roads lead to flat Earth, so that flat Earth can be also deemed a conspiracy, when it's not. It's a measurement. Earth is measured flat. Can't have your engineers and your architects describing that, because they'll be taken seriously and people will just pay attention. And if you do happen to have an engineer or an architect talking about how flat Earth is, they'll immediately get punted out of the arena and their job taken off them, as was the case with Brian Mullen.
And it's so on point what you just said, because still to this day, it's being punted as a conspiracy.
Right.
Yeah, I like the way you explained all that, Nathan. Yeah, it's like the flat Earth should be in a geometry box. It's been taken out of the geometry box and put in the Feast of Nonsense conspiracy box. Yeah, it's not where it belongs.
Yeah, and if you can put it there and then corral everybody who talks about it to be given certain types of arguments about Earth being a disc in a sky vacuum, about Earth being a pizza pie or a pancake, about Earth not being spherical, then the arguments are controlled so that you're only arguing about whether or not Earth is or is not a ball. And then everybody can utilise the flat Earth measurements of Earth's surface to argue whether or not Earth's a ball, without anybody ever mentioning how flat Earth must be measured to even begin the arguments, which don't exist. They're not real arguments. If you've measured Earth flat to create the ball, to argue about whether or not it is a ball, it's nonsensical, because you've measured Earth flat in the first place. So why have an argument about whether or not the flat Earth measurements create a ball? You've got to measure Earth flat to create the ball, to argue about whether or not it is or isn't a ball.
Yep, it's not an argument, just a measurement.
It's funny though. I mean, I don't watch tons of videos. I flick through the odd video of different things. Sometimes I watch them all. Sometimes, since we've been saying it's not an argument, I'm really noticing when I've just clicked on a few people talking about things or having a so-called debate, that they use that term a lot. You know, and I never noticed it until we're saying this. It's like, well, you get your argument across, and then I'll give you my argument, You know, that was an example. I was listening to Bro Sanchez the other week on Summit with another guy having a debate on the shape of Earth, and that was what it was. Your argument, my argument. So this argument is it's been really thrown in there to convince you that there is an argument, and now we're saying it's never been an argument. It's a measurement.
Yeah, it started off with refracted curvature in exasperation when dealing with liars and glurfs who use flat Earth measurements. Because in the quote-unquote debate, they were utilising flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements and distance measurements. And in an exasperated tone, he said, and I quote, "You guys need a flat Earth more than we do," end quote, refracted curvature. Because it was in his exasperation that he realised they're using a flat Earth to believe in a ball. And up until that point, nobody was highlighting it. Everybody was using horizontal distance measurements in miles and kilometres. Everybody was using perpendicular elevation, that's height, off surface level. Everybody was using sea level. Everyone was using elevation angles off the flat Earth that you can only measure them from. And then going on to say that they've made a ball with those flat Earth measurements, and then inviting glurfs and flurfs to argue amongst themselves about whether or not that's true, ignoring the flat Earth measurements that precede the so-called argument.
Can I take it back to the Dave Weiss anecdote?
Yeah, go ahead, Len.
Yeah, I think one noteworthy point from that is when he's saying that he doesn't watch you, he was in a live stream chat. Someone donated a membership and that exposed that he was, in fact, watching you. I think that's noteworthy if you're writing anything about that.
Well, he was publishing my videos and sending people to defend his Bitcoin. So, I mean, as much as I know what you're saying after the fact, when denying that he watches my material, he was exposed as constantly watching because he got a free membership. Now, I would assume that you get a free membership if you're a regular viewer and you haven't bought a membership, and when someone dishes one out for free, you'll be at the top of the queue based on how long you've spent watching the material. Now, like I say, it's disappointing because I liked Dave, yeah? And to be perfectly frank, I don't want to say admire, but I have a lot of respect for the amount of time and effort Dave puts in to going out on the circuit. Now, obviously, I'm critical of how dusty and old his rhetoric is, and I would, and still do, desire him to be better at what he does, because he's certainly putting the hours in. Yeah? Now, there's others out there that do a similar sort of thing, like Mark Sargent, but they've never wronged me in the same way David Weiss did. Now, we're in a time where Dave Weiss has had that blow up in his face, like he backed the wrong horse, he backed the Gerrans and the Bobs and the Whitsits. Well, how did that work out? Not very well is the answer. Same goes for the azimuthal equidistant North Pole-centric globe projection that forms part of his application, the Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock app. That's been thoroughly debunked for 10 years. Now, the fact that the shills and grifters, the real shills and grifters of this community, were out there pretending to be flat earthers only to transition back to a ball with an experiment that debunked the azimuthal equidistant projection used on Dave's app should be extremely telling to someone like Dave. Now, is he back on bended knee apologising for how wrong he got it? Of course not. He'll still be out on the circuit. He'll still be punting his app with that crappy map that doesn't work. Now, the maps themselves are all flat, without exception. But it's only in the last year that it's come to my attention of just how gerrymandered these maps really are. So I can't remember her name, the Irish girl that we covered recently, who's autistic, and was talking about the term that Surf Daddy used about approved opposition. I can't remember the terminology that she used. Licensed critic, that's the one. Well, she was exposing how maps, or more specifically, how cartography is utilised to deceive people into visiting the new worlds. Now, new worlds used to be out towards the horizon. When you read the 1800s books that 10th Man would go through us in the pre-shows about 5 years ago, the offing is the horizon. In that direction, if that's south, the new worlds were found in outer space, beyond the offing. That's to say, beyond the horizon, the uncharted territories, where we found new worlds. But then we had to get people over to the new worlds to do the work, to do the graft. Well, how did we do that? With maps showing the land of opportunity, the new territory that you could be inhabiting. In other words, people, us, back in the 1800s were propagandized with what? Maps. So you can't trust these things. They're used by the elites to convince people to do their bidding. Their ends are achieved with people. They need those people to be propagandized into their nefarious ends with things like cartography. And that is how it's been used. Now, this is information that I was vaguely aware of in terms of how the terminology's changed from outer space, where we find new worlds being beyond the offing, to outer space, the lights that we use to find our way home when finding these new worlds. Those lights give us ground positions. But now the lights used for navigation become the new worlds, and outer space stops being the area where we find new land and starts being an area thousands of miles away, tens of thousands or millions of miles away, derived from flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements, surface level measurements, linear distance measurements, to create things like orbital motion scaled by Huygens and Kepler, so that you can suggest that the lights in the sky are where you'll find the soil and the resources. Utterly absurd, and only a transition that we have, I say experienced, obviously not, I'm not 200 years old, but in the last couple of 100 years. We've been deceived from being propagandized to visiting the new worlds, to being deceived into believing that the only new worlds are up in the sky. Ooh, new microphones. Thank you very much. My wife's just come back with some packages.
So what are you saying? That they're hiding property from us?
I'm not saying they're hiding.
other-
I'm saying that they formally wanted to propagandize us into travelling to these places. They needed manpower when colonising the new worlds, didn't they? Well, how do you acquire that manpower? Well, you sell the place you're taking the people to on the boats as being the land of opportunity. The new worlds are the land of opportunity. And you do that with cartography and maps. Like I say, I've got this new version of describing it from that Irish girl who has exposed our very, candidly documented history in that regard. So she's gone through this on her videos in terms of how the British government propagandized many people to die at sea in the journey, let alone getting there, to eventually arrive on these new worlds, only to, instead of finding themselves in a land of opportunity, find themselves in a poverty of hard graft and death and disease and famine.
I'd like to point out though, when we say like the lands beyond the horizon is not a physical location that we can go beyond. It's just an apparent observation where the sky and the surface of the earth appear to meet.
So maybe everything is already discovered, and that's why they're trying to go to outer space, because they feel like maybe people feel like they're caged in. Perhaps there is no other land out there. Everything is discovered. I don't know.
Well, no. I mean, we know that the globe that they've created to suggest that is a creation based on flat Earth measurements. And we know that they formally described the area where we did find new worlds was beyond the horizon. Now, if it is the case that their globe is the reason why we would go in a circle and come back on ourselves when we know damn well that's not the case, then you can only assume that it's not the case that where we formerly found new soil, new resources, and funneled people there with the maps that lied to people about the opportunities of the new worlds, would mean that there are potentially more new worlds to find if we continued out towards the offing. That's the horizon, in old school speak.
Interesting.
I was thinking while you were talking about 1984, because I was thinking conspiratorially. But in 1984, I don't know if you guys remember the whole slogan of, or the whole new math of 2 + 2 = 5, and how to see that 2 plus 2 equals 5. So you'd put up 4 fingers, and then you'd relax your eyes. You'd look beyond your fingers, and you'd let your optics, or I don't know what the hell it's called, but it would look like more than one finger, and you could see that 2 plus 2 could equal 5 if you looked away from it. Now, in Globe, we're looking at a flat plane on everything that we do, and underneath that is that dingleberry earth, and they're telling us that we're on top of that ball instead of on that flat that we're always on. Those are the people that, no, not those are the people, but that's what we're against. That's what we're fighting against, is imagining on top of reality. And that's how you get a lot of conspiratorial people to come, is breaking that illusion. And I like that we stay at breaking the illusion, but the illusion doesn't go away. There's teams, they have to be teams dedicated to, crapping all over our findings.
Everybody's afraid to say argument now.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And I'm glad that you're hesitant to use the word argument, because it isn't an argument. The crapping all over our argument, as you were hesitant to say it, is in and of itself a way of keeping the rhetoric alive as an argument when it isn't. If both sides use the same measurements of Earth flat, how can it be called an argument? There isn't
exactly.
one. We're both using flat Earth measurements.
100%.
They can't argue that in their Earth curve calculator that they're using surface level parallel to eye level and using a depression angle in between the two parallel horizontal references. They can't deny that. It's not an argument. You can look at it and witness it and understand it, how that measurement is made to be then calculated. It's not called the Earth curve calculator for nothing. It's calculated a curve from flat Earth.
So it's not called the Earth curve measurement?
No,
exactly.
Just the calculator.
Oh dear.
Which uses flat Earth measurements.
Well, the measurements have to be from flat. We know that. And we know from refracted curvature, he turned his kitchen into a ball. So everybody's aware of the game now. Just that some people ain't ready to step away from the game.
Same as latitude. It's measured at sea level. You can measure it from sea level to and from Polaris using a sea sextant, which you will be utilizing the surface of Earth, sea level. And the device is it's been designed to measure elevation angles. We know the requirements of an elevation angle using the surface of Earth measured flat.
Well, some people are claiming the elevation angle is an area in the sky. It has nothing to do with the ground.
But
yeah, I think some
circle of
people
equal
are
altitude, area of equal elevation that we're navigating isn't the ground, according to some. What's this on screen?
I see it, and I know it, but there are people, prominent flat earthers. I think the Vax was saying something about it to me the other day, and they were claiming that's not a ground measurement. It's a sky measurement.
They were saying that to me on Saturday. They've been saying that for months, but then when I pointed out, I got called a liar, and it turned into a whole shit show.
Interesting.
Why would flat earthers be saying not the ground on an elevation angle measurement? That's what you got to ask yourself.
Because they're stupid?
I had the thought that if it looks like a list, that's made by Globers for flat earthers to like almost like don't use these, we'll get you, flat earthers. But at the same time, it's a list of pretty simple things if you know what you're talking about. So maybe to spin it in a good way, we just work on making sure that people know how to look at these arguments and respond to them.
Elevation
Arguments?
profiles.
Who said arguments?
Adam's been trying to get the word argument in there. You're trying to take us back, Adam. No, elevation profile. What's to explain about that? How can you make that any easier than how it's being said? An elevation
Put out
profile.
a written statement.
Elevation from what?
Elevation from
Sea level. Sea level.
Oh dear, how
That's
simple it is.
Yeah, it's sea level. That's the 0 degree baseline for all measurements. Sorry, I mean mean sea level. It's the 0 degree baseline for all elevation profiles on Earth. I mean, and I'm not lying about that. You can, do a little bit of research, buy a book, and read up on it. It's the 0 degree baseline for all elevation profiles on Earth. 0 degrees horizontal baseline for everything on Earth.
It's used for building. It's used for many, many things. It has to be, because how can you get an elevation profile from anything other than mean sea level?
Yeah,
You can't.
you've got to have that baseline. It's horizontal.
And they say, hold on,
sea levels in the sky.
Microphones.
one
Go ahead,
second. They
Faxi.
claim that it's an imaginary line. Okay?
Just 1
An
second. Go
imaginary line across the face of the Earth.
ahead, Vaxi.
No, I was making a joke. I said they'll say mean sea levels the sky measurement.
No, they're saying exactly what I said. They're claiming it's an imaginary line. But that imaginary line is running parallel with the surface of the Earth that's being measured. Yeah, we're imagining a line to the sun, and we're imagining a line across the ground we are standing on.
Are we imagining we're finding our way home successfully too?
Exactly.
Well, at the equator, you've got the GP of Polaris. That's the ground position, and your ground position along the surface of Earth. And there's a distance between them 2 points. A distance has been given between them 2 points, but it is a measurement, a horizontal measurement with 2 ground positions on it. So there you go.
Sounds like a flat measurement to me.
Think, Neil, you never hear any curve measurements, do you? Have you ever heard anybody trying to explain how Earth curves measured?
No, because,
No.
and they're supposed to, because according to 90, let's say we'll give ourselves 5%, right? That's fair. It's been going on for 10 years strong. We'll say 5% have converted to flat Earth, open their eyes and realize Earth is measured flat. So 95% of the world still thinks that we live on a spinning water ball. So there should be some curved measurements, but there's not. There's only flat.
Yeah. But you've been in this how long? I have. So nobody's ever approached me and said, yeah, I wonder, this is exactly how the curve's measured. It's using this tool that's designed to measure curvature over a distance, and this is who did it. This is how they did it. Got nothing to do with measuring elevation angles. We're not using a level baseline for the elevation profiles. This is, I'm going to show you exactly how this curvature is measured.
No, me and Vax,
I mean,
we asked Edgewise Saturday. I popped in just to see if anybody would come in, and Vax showed up, and then Edgewise came in under a different name, Pancake. Pop or whatever his name is. And when we asked him, all right, give us your curve measurements, he couldn't do it.
No, they can't. I've never heard anybody attempt to. The point years ago, well, they would, I don't know how many years ago, they'd give you Eratosthenes as their globe proof. And at that point, we were skipping past it. We didn't see it for what it was. We didn't realize that's not a curve measurement. It's a curve calculation derived from a flat Earth elevation angle measurement. So we missed it. Same as Al-Biruni.
That was the game the whole time. Make sure that we're arguing about whether or not Earth's a ball, and then so long as everybody uses horizontal distance measurements. I remember doing it for the Isle of Man. So we'd be talking about how far something was away. We'd go to Google Earth to get the distance, and then not stop and go, hang on, to use this distance, it's horizontal, linear, and flat. Well, we've just measured Earth flat, let's just stop here. Instead, we took that flat Earth measurement, ignored how flat Earth had to be measured to acquire it, punched it straight into the Earth curve calculator.
Wow. The whole time, you just walked right past the proofie. You could have ended it right there. Well, maybe you wouldn't have had a show.
I don't know if the case would have been that we wouldn't have a show, but we'd have certainly ended the argument 10 years ago rather than now. You know, it's a surprise to me that certain people have said when we came up with this fact that Earth is always measured flat, there were still people on the flat side that objected to that. I won't mention any names. Brian's logic.
Adam Meakin. Or Larkin. I forgot what his last name was.
This mic's old. Is this sounding okay? I just want to double check. It should be fine. It's brand new.
Yeah, it don't sound no different than what you've been doing on the show.
Well, given that it's only about 6 inches away as opposed to 2.5 foot away, that's a pretty good testament to my Neumann. But this sounds fine, right? This is
Yep.
UMC XLC1 by Trumix. Beautiful.
So yeah, I thought that we would when we first came out with this and we started on that campaign of putting our front foot forward with proving Earth is flat by the measurements, that we'd be like the Pied Piper. Instead, it was the total opposite. We were getting hammered from both ends.
I don't know. I think the landscape has changed. Sorry, One Deck. If you want to keep going, go ahead.
No, it's only a quick point. You do hear people on the other servers say Earth is measured flat. It does come out of the mouths, but they're not drilling into the points of how, and just sticking with that point solely. You know, beating around the bush with other points. I'm done.
Long distance laser observations.
No, I've heard them use the argument when it's convenient for them, if it's going to end the Glober's argument. Yeah.
With measurements came knowing for a lot of people, and I can see even just watching Facebook and watching big long YouTubes of TikToks, I see that people are getting the message. A lot of people are getting the message. And I don't think that we're at where we were even like 2 years ago.
You know who
You got to send them to me because I don't see them.
Well, neither do I, but I'm not there looking. But the person that really needs credit for that is refracted curvature. He was the first person to be bold enough to say, I'll give you any argument for a globe, anything, and I'll concede to it. Why? Because he knew damn well that every single claim to be argument for a globe started with measuring Earth flat. He knew it before any of us realised it.
I mean, sorry, Nathan. I think you're getting Neil and curvature mixed up. Remember Neil came out with a poem, the globe is measured flat. I mean, I think Neil was onto this quite some time ago.
Yeah, nobody cares. No. But that was after Refracted came out with that. He's the one. Other people insist that they were telling you for years, but you just never listened, Nathan. You just never listened when other people were telling you that it was measured flat. I never heard it.
Yeah, certain parasites will say that they come up with the arguments that other people come up with 2 weeks before they came up with it. But that's just parasites for you, isn't it?
I do remember, John, when he was going on with the Earth curve calculator in the beginning. It took me a while to think, what's he talking about? I couldn't get my head around it myself a little bit when he was on about the being surface level and the horizontal, the horizon below surface
levels.
Yeah, and just the way he was describing it, I think is he all right or what? What's going on?
Well, Refracted was a baller coming in from. He was a baller who used to harass freaking what's his name from Globebusters. The Morgile, right? But then when he realized there were no measurements for this curvature, he realized that Earth was measured flat. So I'm glad you said that, Nathan, because it's true. He's the first one that was bold enough to say, you could have whatever you want. I could see to it all. Because he knew.
Yes.
Over that thing when he went to when he was on that Ruhif and when he said that and went live with them. That's the trouble. They won't listen to that because they've already preempted what they wanted. They want they want some sort of a model. You've got to adhere to this, adhere to that, and bring and show us on a screen and sheets, and we want to know this. And they lay out it all out how they want you to present them with what they want presenting with. And John was not doing that. He was just saying, you can have whatever you want because whichever way this is going to go, you're going to be telling me Earth is measured flat with any example that you choose to use.
And that was bold.
Yeah, which brings me back to Dave Weiss, which is why it's disappointing. It's like if Dave Weiss had kept on side when he was in front of Jesse Lee Peterson and asked, do you know for sure and without a doubt Earth is flat? He would have answered, yes, it's measured flat.
And he could have took him right through it all. Oh, well, we're doing it now. That's all that matters.
Yeah, things are different now. We're in a very different place as far as flat Earth is concerned. We, here at least, appreciate that it's not an argument anymore.
It never really was, but it was portrayed as one because they needed it to be one.
Exactly, Neil. They need it to be an argument rather than a statement of absolute fact used and utilised by both sides. It's not an argument if both sides are measuring Earth flat. And both sides measure Earth flat. It's just one side is now acutely aware of that fact, that's us. The other side wants to whistle past the flat Earth measurements or talk about how when Earth is measured flat, it's not the ground that we've been measuring flat with elevation angles. That's elevation, as in from the surface. Or measurements that terminate at a vertex with you on the ground for a ground position on the ground. That's not the ground when we measure Earth flat. It's only the ground after it's been converted to sphericity. Then it's the ground.
Yeah, then they got no problem agreeing with the ground there. It's just not their ground. We're measuring it flat, just not their globe ground.
It's all very calculated, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not the globe ground.
All right, so it's not the globe ground. So where do we go from here? Now that we know for sure and without a doubt that Earth is measured flat, right? We all know this. It's been echoed in here for hundreds of shows at least, maybe thousands. Where do we go from here?
Well, we can chill now. I mean, I can box up this microphone and send it out to the customer.
Oh, we could also get normies on like we've been doing. And that'll really get under their skin like it did Elder Bear's skin. Because now you got normal people just going about their everyday life, showing the world how it's measured flat.
Yeah, I'm happy to continue exactly on that vein, which is to say we go through the normal, general, day-to-day measurements of Earth that people will and do utilise Earth with as a flat plane, and point out that this isn't somebody from some kooky flat Earth server talking about 9/11 truth and JFK. This is just a guy out and about measuring Earth. He hasn't got any disclaimers for how ball-shaped it is, because he doesn't need to, because he's not being told Earth's a ball. He's just going out and measuring Earth flat.
Like
It's so
yesterday,
simple.
I'm not.
Go ahead now.
Sorry,
My bad.
I'm not suggesting you do it, Nathan. I did send you personally a couple of clips. One was on, I think it was Zenith angles, and the other one, I just had a quick look at Rise Over Run, obviously with the palaver that one, and yesterday with Elder Bear. So it's only a short one. It just points out, yeah, it's about mapping and how to measure rise over run and what's required. And yeah, horizontal is required. You're measuring above and below it.
Which one you've sent to? Hold on a second.
There's two in there, but not saying you have to do them, Nathan, if you're doing stuff. But yeah, there's one in there. There's two in there. There's one on, I think it was Zenith angles. That sort of goes to like a celestial sphere example, measuring angles and stuff like that. And then there was one called Rise Over Run.
Oh, that's funny because I'm just looking up this. Everybody's talking about this sphere in Las Vegas, this big sphere that they built so people can do shows in there and concerts and stuff like that. But if you look inside the sphere, it's all flat. Sort of like how they used the equatorial plane to get all their measurements. Very weird.
What do you mean inside the dome's flat? The floor?
Yeah, everything inside there is flat. Nathan, how are they going to do a show if they're all hanging off the side of a curve? You get inside the dome in Las Vegas and everything is flat. The stage is
sure
flat.
It's not. Are you sure about that? Because it's an auditorium. Now, generally speaking, in an auditorium, you've got a rake to the seating, so you're not looking into the person in front of you's head.
Yeah, the seating is it's stadium seating, but where the performers are going to perform is flat.
And are you sure about that? Because on a stage, there's normally a rake to the stage also, like upstage and downstage, as in the back of the stage is higher than the front of the stage.
Yeah, they got elevated areas for the stage, yes.
So this is a crap example, Neil, no offence. It's just falling apart.
Yeah, but it all starts from a flat plane. Go look at the pictures. Did you even look?
No, I've just trained in theatre.
I'll put the pictures in Master B, and we'll see how bad of an example it is.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, we'll have a look at this video that Wandex provided. It's the second one. I assume this one's the one on elevation angles, Wandex?
Calculating, yes, rise over run, this one.
Calculating the gradient of a slope from a topographical map, correct?
Yep.
Okay, before we do anything else, so this video is from Mike Samaranto. Hopefully I'm saying his name correctly. And what I'm going to do before we do anything is supply a link to this normie and his video. So you can let this normal, non-flat or globe associated dude know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So that his 135,000 subscribers can be told that a flat earther's using his video to demonstrate how normies, that's a normal guy, measure Earth flat.
Okay, so our goal for this video is to help you to be able to calculate the gradient of a slope between any 2 points on a topographic map.
What's a topographic map? Would that be flat, utilising horizontal distance measurements with things like miles? Yes, Nathan, it is, yeah. Oh, well, that's a flat Earth prerequisite.
I was just going to say, yeah, it will be, Nathan. There'll be a scale on the map, probably in miles or kilometres, linear distance. And that's a horizontal distance. And then obviously you'll have elevation above that horizontal and below it. And you can work out, I think it's called rise over run.
So before we've done anything, we're what, 30 seconds into this video after and including the introduction music, and we're already detailing Earth as a flat plane. So we can utilise horizontal distance measurements in miles for a topographical map. Yeah, Earth's measured flat. It's not like we need to go far into these normie videos to establish that fact.
Do this, we have to understand what gradient actually is. So what is a gradient? Well, gradient is a mathematical measurement, and it measures how steep or how gradual a slope is. You can think of it as a measure of how much your elevation up, down is going to change as you move horizontally forward and backward over.
But do we hear that? Up and down, perpendicular to a plane of reference, 90 degrees to it, with respect to the horizontal distance. Yeah, you've got it. Horizontally is how we'll be measuring the gradient of any slope. Yeah, like in rise over run, like we covered yesterday. Yeah, Earth's measured flat. There's no exceptions.
Yeah. Horizontally over a surface. Now, we're specifically talking about the surface of Earth when we're talking about maps, when you're out navigating and hiking. So, yeah, horizontal over the surface of Earth.
For how much you're going forward or back. Think of it as a measure of how much. So what is a gradient? Well, gradient is a mathematical measurement, and it measures how steep or how gradual a slope is. You can think of it as a measure of how much your elevation up, down is going to change as you move horizontally forward and backward over a surface. It's really a numerical measure of steepness. It's often described as rise over run, or how much you're going up or down for how much you're going forward or backward. So as always, let's begin with a sample map. And
just saying, like, we've been, I don't know if anybody was around yesterday, but when we went into the other server, and I think it was Elder Bear, you were talking about this with Elder Bear rise over run. And I'm sure he was disagreeing totally with what rise over run was. Now, this is a professional person explaining, he's mentioned about the horizontal surface and working out the gradients above that horizontal surface of Earth. And I'm sure that's what you was pointing out to him at the time. And he was saying, no, 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 no.
If things were different, we'd be crediting some Irish bitch for this. But things aren't different.
And so imagine for a second you're going to go hiking in this area, and you're going to go for a hike from point Y to point X. Now, before you get started with this, you might want to try and figure out exactly how steep this hike is going to be. You can tell by the contour map that you're going uphill, and we know that because Y is an elevation of 3,000 feet and X is 3,500 feet. So we know we're going to be going up about 500 feet. But the question is,
Up. Yeah, you're way ahead of me, Neil. You were quicker on the mute button. You go ahead.
Up. You can't be on a ball for up. You need a flat plane for that. There's only in and out on a globe. And the other thing is sort of like stadium. It's like an arc down, like I was just saying. Look at that line. It's going to be a hill. It's going to be a depression going down, and also the opposite way coming up. And right over there is a little stage where you do your entertaining, like the sphere I was just telling you about.
how steep is it going to be? Are we going up 500 feet over many, many miles, and so it's fairly gradual, or is it over a short distance, meaning it would be very steep? So our task.
So Earth is measured flat then. So we're talking about distances, linear, horizontal, and elevations perpendicular to a plane of reference, described and measured on Earth with rise over run. Yeah, Earth's flat, precisely as being measured. Now, this guy doesn't need to make any disclaimers about how flat Earth is, when he measures it flat and describes the perpendicular elevation with respect to the horizontal run being measured in miles. But ipso facto, Earth is and can only be flat for this to be detailed by this normie when he measures Earth flat, which he absolutely is doing. Earth is flat. That's why we measure it that way. Like this dude, this normie, this guy who's absolutely unequivocally not associated with any ball-believing dickheads or anti-globers, formerly known as flat earthers. This is just a normal guy measuring and detailing Earth as a flat planar surface with miles and perpendicular elevations. Earth's flat. That's why it's measured that way.
Well, because that's the only way he can detail it, Nathan. What do you expect?
Yes, but all the while he thinks he's on a globe, though. He believes he's on a globe, even though
He hasn't said that, Jin.
That's what
When
he
did he
believes,
say that?
doesn't he?
What are you doing? When did he say that?
No. I didn't say he did. Didn't say he did.
That's exactly what you said.
I said he believes he's on a globe. I didn't say he did say.
And
that,
when did he
I?
express that belief, Jin?
Well, most people you ask believe
Not most
they're on a
people.
globe. You ask,
Jin.
You ask
No,
100
Jin,
people,
stop.
100 people
Stop.
do.
Not most people. When did this guy express that belief?
I never said that he expressed it.
That's exactly what you said. Specifically, you said he believes he's on a globe, and I'm asking you when he expressed that
that's an
belief.
assumption on my part, then. That would be an assumption on my
Right,
part.
don't assume that. He hasn't said that. The whole point of going to these bleeding videos is to point out that they're not expressing that belief.
No, that's because, okay, fine. They're not expressing it, but I'm sure if you asked, they'd be telling you they live on a globe.
Can you ask him? Are you going to go and ask him? Why would you do that?
Why wouldn't I not do that?
Why would you go and ask somebody if they're a Jehovah's Witness?
Well, because what if my point of interest, I'm trying to prove a point. Let's say, ladies and gentlemen, although the Earth is measured flat, most people in that industry believe they're on a globe. Let's go and check for that reason. That reason would be enough.
Why?
Yeah,
Why would I
he's
go to a guy
demonstrating it's
who's
flat.
fundamentally measuring it flat, detailing it flat, and describing it
Yes,
with graphics that are flat? You
yes,
don't need to chant
whilst
through me. I
believing
urge
it-
you.
whilst-
I urge you, Jin. Now I'm responding.
Okay.
Yeah, why would you do that? Why would you, when someone specifically describes how flat Earth is being measured, why would you say, well, if I went and asked him if he believed he's on a globe, he'd say yes? He's not detailing that in this video. The whole point of me going to these videos is to demonstrate that normal people don't concern themselves with their globe belief when they detail how Earth is measured. So you're going to throw into the mix that, oh, well, he'd still believe it. Why? The whole point of using these videos.
Because,
I still haven't finished the same sentence, Jin. That's the second time you've interrupted the same. Second time you've interrupted this exact same sentence. Second time. He's not expressed that, has he?
Never said he did.
Yes, you did. You explicitly said that.
Yeah, what I meant to say, I suppose I did. What I meant to say was I've assumed that he has.
Don't.
Ask is to calculate the average gradient between points x and y. And in order to be able to do this, we need to know two things.
Can we have x and y points if there's a curve between them? If it's just simple 2 points, that's straight and flat, correct? These 2 points are
Correct.
linear, flat, and horizontal then.
Yes.
We need to
And
know
he
the
says
change.
that change in elevation, that's heights above level, isn't it?
Yes.
Above sea level. Sorry, I mean mean sea level.
My point is that they're not curving.
In the elevation, as well as the distance between the two locations. And so if we start, we're going to use this formula. This is the gradient formula. And it says that gradient is equal to the change in field value divided by the distance.
So the distance being horizontal, linear, and flat then?
Now, field value is a generic term that refers to whatever data is on your map. We've
So the data on the map is flat miles with a scale that's flat.
mentioned in the past that topographic maps are just one type of field map. We could also have temperature maps and air pressure maps, etc. In our case of a topographic map, the field value is really just the elevation. So it's really the change in the elevation divided by the distance between my 2 points.
So the distance between the 2 points must be horizontal then.
So let's go back to our map here. And we'll zoom in a little bit. And so the first thing we want to do is look at the change in elevation. So I'm going to take my higher elevation, which in this point is point X, which is 3,500. And I want to subtract my lower elevation, which is 3,000. And that's going to give me the overall change in elevation as I go between these 2 points. So back to my formula, I now can say gradient is equal to 3,500 feet minus 3,000 feet divided by the distance between those 2 points. So let's go back to the map. So now I need to be able to figure out a couple more things. The first thing we need to do is determine how far apart points X and Y are. And to do that, we need to use the map scale down at the bottom. So there are a variety of ways to do this. I find the easiest is to just grab a piece of scrap paper.
And just make a note of how flat, linear and horizontal the mile scale is on this topographical map. So in order for this to function, Earth, in terms of the run, will be a flat, horizontal mile measurement. Yes, because Earth's measured flat. It's the only way this can be done.
Line it up at X and Y and mark off those 2 points. And then you can take your scrap paper and bring it down to the scale and read the distance between those 2 points. So this to me appears to be about 1.7 miles. So
Earth's measured flat.
Now I just plug that number back into my formula. So remember, we have gradient, we have the change in elevation, which is 3,500 minus 3,000, and now we're going to divide that by the distance between those 2 points, which in this case, our scrap paper told us is about 1.7 miles.
Of flat Earth horizontal linear distance. Yeah, because Earth is measured flat.
So now I just need to solve. So gradient is equal to 500 feet divided by 1.7, and then I could just punch that into a calculator, and I get a gradient of about 294.2, and it's going to be feet per mile. And the reason it's feet per mile is because my elevations, according to my map, are measured in feet, and my distances are measured in miles. So
flat then.
It just
good.
It's just interesting because we're watching more and more of these. I mean, I think the most important thing was more at the beginning of this, because he was telling you the requirements, the horizontal surface, the distance above it and below. It's just pointing out you will be using a horizontal baseline for your rise over run or any elevation profile. But again, it's just the more and more we're doing this, it's becoming apparent, if not anybody's not realised yet, that all, like we're pointing out, these measurements are all horizontal level, elevation above sea level. There's no mention, and we're dealing with the ground. We're out in the open field here, navigating the Earth. There's no mention of curvature whatsoever when you're calculating these distances and heights.
Because Earth is not curved, and you bit Jim's head off. And all Jim was saying is 95% of the world still think they're on a globe.
Exactly.
All right, it's not for this video, and he did assume that the guy thinks he's on a ball. But the fact of the matter is that there is 95% of the world that think they're on a globe. So what we're doing is we're demonstrating that even though 95% of the people think they're on a globe, they're showing you that they measure it flat.
Yes, please note the psychology there. That's the point I'm trying to highlight. Note that psychology. They're measuring it flat all the while, as their normies, as we call them, are thinking they're living on a ball Earth, because that's what they are.
Okay.
Normies, as we used to call them.
If we go back to our map here, what this means is that if I were to go for a hike from point Y to point X, for every mile I traveled, my elevation would increase by 294.2 feet. Now, of course, that's on average. So there may be parts of that where it's a little bit steeper and other parts where it's a little bit flatter. But on average, between X and Y, that is my gradient. So again, just to sum up, we do the change in elevation between the 2 points divided by the distance between the 2 points. Be sure to check out the next video where we're going to learn how to draw a topographic profile.
Awesome. I think we might just do exactly that. Probably not. We said that about the last guy. But there is a whole raft of normies, globe believing or otherwise, Jin, that measure Earth flat. This is no exception.
Right. So now you understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
Yeah, my point hasn't changed, but Neil's defended you.
I wasn't wrong in what I said. Thank you.
I'm not saying you were wrong.
What,
That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, does this mic sound okay? Because this one's not sold, but I do need to test whether or not it works okay. Is this fine?
It's good. It's good.
It works.
It's good.
Jolly good.
Sell it.
what Nathan is saying is don't assume it while we're doing the video, because we're demonstrating how normies, normal people, everyday people, are demonstrating that Earth is measured flat because they have to. They can't demonstrate how it's curved.
Yeah, it's fundamental, isn't it? There's no escaping that. That I understand, and I get that. But there's also that other factor that they're carrying a belief of a globe whilst they're doing that. They're not even thinking about it, don't mind you. It's not on their mind.
Yeah, they're not voicing it.
Yeah.
Just to go back to that though, if nobody's familiar with Rise Over Run, I think Elder Bear brought Rise Over Run up. He raised the point yesterday with Nathan. So obviously you think you know a little bit about it. Now it doesn't. We've just been through a 3-minute video, and he's pointed out it's from the horizontal surface above or below, and you can work out the gradient and do a little bit of calculations and get that get to the point where he finally got to. But that's not hard, is it? We can all see what was going on there. The distances, the height, the elevation. It was all horizontal, level, and flat.
Any type of measurement, no matter what you do, rise over run, I don't care what you do, it's got to be done from a flat plane of reference, because you have no reference to reference if you're not referencing flat.
Right.
Indeedy weedy. With that, though, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Before I do actually round out this live show, I will say pop along to that videographer and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get removed by the YouTube algorithmic bots or indeed by the videographer himself. So as you can see, if you are watching this live, there is a link to that videographer, Mike. Please let Mike know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So once again, if you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Stream, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. If you're watching live though, this genuinely is where we say farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.